Hey guys, Rich, Mr. Thrive and Survive, 29th of October 2015. I want to ask the question, how many times does this have to be thrown into your face if you believe in the globe and you believe that our satellites circling the earth? How many times do things like this have to be thrown in your face before you wake up, turn on your brain, and start thinking once again, instead of consistently and constantly coming up with excuses to defend a spinning ball that is moving through space faster than a speeding bullet? And it's in your face all the time. You just don't realize it because deep within the cobwebs of your brain, of your subconscious, and even your conscience, you have allowed the establishment, those in charge of it all, to flip the logic and being awake switch off. And it's been off so long that not only can you not find it, but you have created your own ways to get around finding it once again. So for everybody who believes that we are on the spinning bullet moving through space with satellites moving with us and reporting on everything, let's take a look at a few new and old things that have happened and see if maybe we can dig through some of that denial that has been built up in your life. And I have to ask the question also, there were quite a few people that actually were questioning when I put a whole lot of things together. See, people don't generally want to stay asleep when you put a whole lot of things together in one video maybe, or in one session. So I mentioned more than one thing at a time, which is what most people in this country and most thinkers, quote unquote thinkers, try to think of in the world. And that is handling more than one thing at a time. So I put together the fact that NASA has lied about many different things. Why would they have videos that have bubbles that come up when they're supposedly in the middle of deep space doing a spacewalk? Boop, there's the bubble going up. Not only is it in one video, but every space agency in the world who claims to have a space program, just about everyone that's been around for a while, you can find a bubble video where the bubble's going up. Jaronism channel. Just recently, Jaron showed in a loop for the International Space Station, no doubt about it, stars showing through the Earth. Why and how is that possible?
Look at that. Where do people live there? Underneath the ice? Is that ice? Is that just clouds that don't move? Come on, NASA fanboys, help me out. The other thing is, please remember that if something is true, it just feels right. It doesn't need explanations and mathematical proofs. But if something is going to be faked, then they have to tell you that anyone who says different is an idiot. They have to tell you to laugh at anyone who questions the truth.
What you are about to see is bizarre.
Okay, now look carefully at the screen, and you will see the stars behind the Earth can be seen through the layer of Earth. And clearly, this is a hoax. It's a fraud. It's a joke. Again, look at this view. Explain to me, through orbital mechanics or mathematics, how the stars are seen through the Earth. Or are you going to tell me it's reflecting? Is that what it is? It's reflecting off the black water, the stars in the sky. Look at this here. Yep. You're seeing what you think you're seeing. That's them adjusting the layer. Oh, yeah, better adjust that. Oh, yeah, I'm going to play it again. So I want to make sure you see it. And it starts to sink in. You mean NASA could be lying to us? Here we are again. This is in slow motion. So you can clearly see them adjusting the layer. And I don't know about you, but the last time I saw a basketball game where they were adjusting the layer of players was never.
It's possible because they're using computer-generated images and layers, and they messed up on one of the layers. He even showed where they started tilting it up to fix it. And yet all people say was, you're making a lot of claims. Where is the link to it? See, nobody can even do the homework for their own self anymore. And I talked about a funny thing happened on the way to the moon, which I didn't even know existed until I saw it and put it in that video. And then the big surprise to me was, how can this be out there People have seen it, and then they make comments like, I can't believe all of a sudden I'm seeing once again a funny thing happened on the way to the moon. And they defend NASA. If you've seen it before, and it's obviously a farce and a lie right in front of your face, and yet you defend it. I talk about how NASA to this day with Project Orion, they have their own quote unquote engineer come on and explain that before we can go to the moon or to Mars, we have to figure out how to get through the Van Allen belts, both going out and coming back. You're just making that up, Rich. They never said that. So you provide the link. And then you have Simon and Garfunkel come out talking about the sounds of silence, because that's what you get, silence in return. Nobody comes back, but they'll be on the next video still defending it. They just go around what you just said. That's their defense mechanism. I'll just pretend all that evidence doesn't exist. That's how I'll get around it. So you demanded to know where the links were to the outlandish claims that I was making. They were provided. And then one of the people involved in it said, I haven't had time to look at it yet. It's been 2 weeks. It's a whole 5 minutes of things you need to look at. 2 weeks. But these same people have had the time to come back and defend the spinning bullet several times in videos since then. It is an amazing thing. This is what psychologists should be looking at. How can someone presented with evidence that is undeniable, it is undeniable that they faked footage on the way to the moon. It is undeniable that they have footage of a supposed spacewalk when a bubble comes out of their spacesuit, makes a sound, and floats up. Not once, not twice, but at least a half a dozen times on 7 different video feeds from supposed space agencies all around the world. And then you have this, which you see on the screen. It's in your face. It's in your face, and the people have their switch turned so much into the off position that they don't get it. Let me read you the caption underneath this map in case you can't see it. A map of the major submarine cables connecting the United States and the rest of North America, the Caribbean, South America, Europe, Africa, the Middle East, and Pacific. Much of global commerce is dependent on this network. And when you get in and read the articles, see, here's the problem. You've all seen it on the news unless you've been totally asleep. The mainstream reports it. Russia. See, because this goes along with the propaganda. We got to have a war soon against somebody. We got to make the straw man to knock him down. Is it Russia? Is it China? Is it Iran? Is it North Korea? Is it ISIS? We even gave up on bombing ISIS. Oh, I wonder why. Maybe because we created them. Wake up, people. But Russia now, we're all worried. The U.S. military and U.S. officials are worried because Russia is now maneuvering closely. We've noticed this. We've noticed it now. It's going on. They've been maneuvering close to these undersea cables that carry, are you ready for this? Depends on what article you're reading, between 90 and 95% of all global communications. 90 to 95% of all global communications are carried by these cables. Do you know what the other 5 to 10% is done? It's done by landlines. That makes up 100%. Why do we have satellites supposedly up there that are communication satellites? If 95% is using these cables to transmit global communications, and that means everything, folks. That means television, that means radio, that means, and these are radio stations, of course, that are covered on the internet or whatever. The internet, Fox News, CNBC News, CNN, telephone, telegraph. When you all add it up, it's 100%. It's either carried on land or it's carried undersea on cables. And things like radio, at least locally, they're carried in the air, aren't they? So wake the hell up. You're going to defend this? So why do we have If this is 95%, let's just go with the low number, 90%. Let's just say 50%. If 50% of global communications was because and available because of these undersea cables, why the hell do we have satellites up there? What percentage are they transmitting? And we're so worried because if Russia cuts the cables, we're going to be cut off from the rest of the world. We won't know what's going on. And that's correct. They should be worried because there are no satellites transmitting data. If there were, this would not be a problem. Do you get it? 90 to 95% of global communications are transmitted, admittedly, by our own military and our own government, by these cables. And people are asleep at the switch. Except they don't even know where the switch is. They're just asleep. Somebody should be asking, wait a minute. What about all this money we paid to have NASA launch these global communication satellites? And we're dependent on this? Let's take a look at something else that's totally ridiculous. Citizens arrest. Citizens arrest. Citizens arrest. I guess you got to be an old fan of the Andy Griffith Show to get that.
Now, if I, as just plain John Doe, an ordinary citizen, were to see you making a U-turn, I'd have to make a citizen's arrest. Gomer, you'll be a better man if you'll try to think of us all working together for a common cause.
Like you said, you broke the law by making an illegal U-turn, and I hereby, as a citizen of the town of Mayberry in the United States of America, arrest you.
Hooray! Now, just a minute, what are you talking about? All nutsy here come running after me screaming, citizens arrest! Citizens arrest!
That was an episode where Gomer Pyle was calling out Barney Fife for a citizen's arrest for making an illegal U-turn. And here we have a blimp which made an illegal U-turn, so to speak. Blimp cable. All right, here's the story. Aberdeen Proving Grounds, Aberdeen, Maryland. I know quite a lot about that. I used to live just a few miles north of there and south of there. They have this cable attached to a balloon, to a blimp. I've been talking about balloons too much. What's the difference? It's attached to a blimp that the cable goes up 16,000 feet, roughly 3 miles, okay? Roughly 3 miles up. It's made out of Vectran, V-E-C-T-R-A-N. I wish I had Vectran. It'd be good to have on a fishing pole because according to them, it never breaks. And it can withstand storms up to an excess of 100 knots. Did you just recently have an excess of 100 knot storm in the Baltimore area? Or did this cable, this Vectran from Vulcan, did it just snap? In any case, this spy, so to speak, blimp, provided by NORAD. In case you don't know what NORAD is, that is our defense mechanism. That's all part of our defense mechanism against nuclear warheads and missiles coming into the country. Well, at 16,000 feet, this blimp supposedly looks up and down the East Coast to monitor and recognize when incoming ballistic missiles could be coming from Russia or China or North Korea or Iran, or you pick the latest straw man that we're going after that needs to be knocked down. And that's what this blimp is looking for. And they admit that's what this blimp is looking for. And they show it how it's it broke loose and it landed in a Pennsylvania bohunk area. But in any case, why do we need blimps, people? Turn on your switch. If we have satellites, why are we dependent on a blimp to see if a missile is coming in from some other place? And supposedly this blimp is actually supposed to track it as well. Ooh, it's supposed to track it. Hopefully I don't have the volume on in this thing. Here we go. This guy's going to talk about it. WBAL, BAL's Baltimore. WBAL in Baltimore. They're in Abington, Harford County. There it is. Time lapse of the blimp being blown up. This is just a large weather balloon. That's all it is. It's just one of my weather balloons that's humongous, and just like my weather balloon, it's got cameras on it. And yet, God knows how many millions of dollars we spent on this piece of crap. But, you know, for as long as I can remember, there's always been a blimp above Aberdeen Proving Grounds. And, of course, they just say it's been up there for so many years. I haven't even lived there in so many years, longer than what they say. So that's what this is supposed to pick up, the missiles. Why can't a satellite pick this up? Why can't a satellite pick this up? Why are we depending on a freaking blimp for our national security? See, guys, if you got your switch on, this stuff makes no sense whatsoever. So we have a blimp that's defending the East Coast against international nuclear weapons coming in. This is all such a joke. And everybody wants to defend it. How can you defend this? Let's go on to something else.
Orion is getting ready to launch. My name is Kelly Smith, and I work on navigation and guidance for Orion. Orion is NASA's next generation spacecraft, to an asteroid or even onto Mars. For these missions, Orion has to be one tough spacecraft, withstanding high speeds, searing temperatures, and extreme radiation. As the spacecraft and the upper stage begin their first lap around Earth, Mission Control in Houston is monitoring the progress of the flight. Orion's over 100 miles up and going about 17,000 miles per hour. Just as it passes over the Indian Ocean, we lose communication. This is expected. The communications link we have through satellites to Orion is momentarily lost. But Orion continues to receive and process data. Its computers can handle 480 million instructions per second. As we get further away from Earth, we'll pass through the Van Allen belts, an area of dangerous radiation. Radiation like this could harm the guidance systems, onboard computers, or other electronics on Orion. Naturally, we have to pass through this danger zone twice, once up and once back. But Orion has protection. Shielding will be put to the test as the vehicle cuts through the waves of radiation. Sensors aboard will record radiation levels for scientists to study. We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space. For this flight, it's time to head home. The upper stage.
Now, these reconnaissance aircraft came within 1 nautical mile at a height of 500 feet. So they were close and they were coming in low, scooping up information, I'm sure.
Now you might say, Rich, what does this have to do with anything as far as satellites and the Earth spin and things like that? Guys, we get this all the time in the news, all the time, where aircraft will come up on another enemy type of situation like we have here. The Russian aircraft comes up on the USS Ronald Reagan, and they get within 1 mile, and they are on a reconnaissance mission. What they do is they come in, and trust me, I know this from when I was in the Navy. They come in and gather all the information they can. They take pictures of the deck, and different things like that to see what kind of mode they're in. There's different ways you can configure the flight deck, and different configurations mean different things. My point here is this. These aircraft carriers, they have these reconnaissance aircraft which will fly over, let's say they happen to be in the South China Sea or something like that, and they want to know what North Korea is up to. They will take these, what we used to call Hummers. They were called that because of the noise they made. They actually used propeller type of engines, so they made a humming sound when the blade turned. So, but they would go very high, and they would take all kind of fantastic photographs from an enormous altitude where they couldn't be shot down. And the whole point of what I'm talking about is this. Why do we need these aircraft if we have satellites that can do the same job? And it has nothing to do with being under cloud cover or anything like that, because these Hummers and other aircraft like that, they fly so high that the only thing that isn't going to be bothering them might be the high cirrus clouds. And even that, in some cases, probably isn't an issue. So look for all these different things. I could have picked up literally 5 other newsworthy articles that I've seen recently and shown you and pointed it out to you that this makes absolutely no sense if we are on a spinning ball and needing satellites or using satellites. Start to think about these things as you look around. When you see them set up cell towers, ask yourself why. Why do you need cell towers? This absolutely makes no sense whatsoever. Cell towers? And supposedly each one has their own satellites up there. AT&T has paid for their satellites. Verizon has paid for their satellites. And just about, I guess, Sprint and everybody else, they've all paid to have their satellites put up in orbit. And they've got them so they can do all kind of triangulation and GPS, supposedly, and provide cell service around the world. And yet, if you drive in the desert, for example, or even sometimes right around the corner at your local grocery store, you might lose the signal. Why is that? Because there's no cell tower there, Rich. Why do you need a cell tower? The idea is all you have to do is pull it in from a satellite. There should be no area on the earth that needs cell towers. Not unless you're using land-based communications. Like I said, I have my theories and hypotheses about how this is done, about how I believe they will take signals from Earth bases, shoot them up, and bring them back down bounce them off the ionosphere. And this is why, and I would have never known this if I hadn't done balloon launches. When the company started telling me to make sure that I had a nearly 90-degree opening at the top of the cargo bay so that the GPS satellite, quote-unquote, reception could come in, that really raised a lot of concern, because as you go up, if you draw a map of it, as you go up higher and higher and higher, your signal should be dropping lower and lower and lower to pick up the GPS, not the other way around. But if you're bouncing it off the ionosphere in order for the GPS to work from ground-based stations, it makes total sense that the higher you get, the more towards 90 degrees you have to look to get it. And I'll leave this video at this. So the question remains, when are you going to wake up and stop defending these liars? And I am telling you, the day is coming soon. This is why they're kicking us off YouTube and kicking us off everywhere. It's getting out of the bag. And I want to show you one more thing here. And this is the left-right paradigm, conservative versus Democrat, right versus left, black versus white, female versus male, straight versus gay, Bruce Jenner versus whatever else there is. What is the opposite of Bruce Jenner? Anyway, this making us fight one another constantly. They're even doing it with the flat earth things, and people are willing participants because they're not willing to wake up and see the truth right in front of their eyes. But it's deeper than that. They want it. Look at this video. Everybody's seen this that's looked at this movement. Here you have this dichotomy right in front of your face. You know as well as I do that NASA is only using GoPros. That's it. That's all they use. When they launch things, it's 100 feet off the ground and you can already see the curve of the earth. So, of course, you still see the curve of the earth when it gets up to however high it is. And it's not any different, I don't think. I think they look the same all the way up. But why in this record jump that they know so many people on the earth will be looking for, why do they have two cameras? One that shows a true view, which is a flat surface. And what does the other one show? It shows a curve. They're throwing this left-right paradigm right in our face so that we'll argue and fight about it. Remember, if the people are divided, they will fall. And the whole idea is for us to fall and them to take over us. And we fall for it. So I'll leave you with that and ask the question once again, how long are you going to allow them to keep your switch turned off? Turn your switch on. Turn your brain back on. Start thinking. Don't worry about your emotions. Get over it. Get over the fact that you were wrong. And start digging in and helping the rest of us figure this lie out so that they will stop lying to us. Take care, everyone. Bye.